It's a beautiful bacon day, Cookie Crusaders. Today I want to be talking to you about the arena PvP teams that you can build to help get you up to Masters and help you fight against the ladder and climb your way to victory. Now, with the new season starting, there's going to be a lot of people pushing really quickly. There's going to be a lot of these teams you're going to see on the ladder. There's going to be a lot of people that are waiting that will just sweep through in the last minute. So, these are some of the teams that I recommend you can build to help you climb or at least hold position. Now, one thing I do want to stress is that when you do choose one of these teams, you make sure that you have the exact counter. If you have the resources, try and have the counter to one of these teams as your defense team. So that way, if your defense team loses, you can win the revenge with your counter team, which should be your attack team. If you have the exact same team in your defense team lineup, and there are any missions that require you to have revenges or to win, you're going to struggle, because if you've lost with your current team in the defense and it's the same attack team, you're not going to win the revenge. And it's hard to make some small, minute adjustments to get that win when it comes to doing revenges with the same team that you've lost with. So I recommend trying to run two different teams between your defense team and your attack team. So we're going to do a quick high-level overview of what this is. I put together. So as you can see, the green numbers on this sheet are the optimal cooldowns that you can get these cookies to. Now, this is taking in consideration the toppings that they have on them, and so if you do not have the resources to the point that you can get them to this level, then they will be a different cooldown than what you see here. So for instance, herb will not be a 4-second cooldown if you do not have a high cooldown. You'll be a 5-second. Pomegranate will not be a 3-second if you have a low cooldown. She will be a 4-second. Pure vanilla will be a 5-second cooldown if you do not have a high cooldown on chocolate toppings. So that's some examples here when you're looking at the sheet to try and remember that the numbers here are having high cooldown numbers. So if they have a chocolate topping on them, then they are specifically focused with enough cooldown to meet that metric. Some of the other ones may have a mix topping on them. So like you see a Claire in the speed team on the top left here, I have serine or chocolate as the option there. This is implied that you can either do 5 serine or 5 chocolate. You can get to the 3-second cooldown, but you will need at least 1 chocolate in a 4 serine build to get there. You need a specific amount of percent to get there. So you cannot do 5 serine and still have a 3-second cooldown. That won't be enough. Yet again, this is getting high substats, really good rolls, so it may be hard to get this in general for these cooldowns. This is more there for a visual understanding of how your skills are going to play out. So for instance, on the speed team, if you have that perfect setup with those toppings and you are running a great cooldown along all 3 of those cookies, you will have Madeline, Caramel Arrow, Pomegranate, Eclair, then Herb go. If you don't have those settings, let's say that your Madeline doesn't have enough cooldown and is a 4-second start, then that means that you will have Caramel Arrow go first, then Pomegranate, then Eclair, then Herb, then Madeline. And so all these are going to make a difference when it comes to how you build your team and how the abilities play out. Now, I've also listed the treasures that is optimal for each team here. These are going to be important for how you run the build. So if you run the tank healer team, you're going to need some really good defenses. Raspberry Cookie is going to be not only rushing forward and attacking the highest attacker as quick as possible, but Sea Fairy is going to be dealing damage in a centralized area, and the feather should activate on Sea Fairy in that build so that you get the most amount of damage possible. The Summoner team takes a lot of resources to invest in to make it a really good team, so I don't recommend the Summoner team unless you really truly have a lot of good toppings. And so if you're a new player, it's going to be very hard to build a Summoner team properly, so that is one I would suggest staying away from unless you know for a fact you have great toppings to put together. The Ginger Scam team is one that a lot of people do as newer players, especially if they have these cookies, because Ginger Brave and Kumio are pretty easy to get. Caramel Arrow has the feature banner right now, and then Cacao and Seaferry, if you're lucky enough as a newer player, or if you've played a little bit, you probably at least have them as 1 star. And the reason that build works out pretty well is that the amount of damage that is outputted between the 3 back lines is substantial enough to really take out teams very quickly. The T-Knight team is a very strong, very popular team that's still working very well. It is running against quite a lot of teams. It cannot handle the speed team that is listed there, but it is working very well against some of the other teams that are currently available. But its counter is the Tank Shredder team, because Pumpkin and Sorbet can definitely take down the front line very well, and once they do, the back line is pretty easy to handle, as the front line is the main power of the T-Knight team itself. And so I'd love to hear any opinions you guys have, or any comments that you want to leave on any of these. One other final thing I will say is that any of these cookies that have apple jellies on them, I stress that you don't run that if you do not have an upgraded critical damage monument and an upgraded lab upgrade to have critical damage raises too. If you do not have those upgrades, please do searing toppings instead, as critical toppings will only work if you have those upgrades, because you will do more damage with searing toppings as a new player or as a mid-level player, where if you are a more veteran player and you have those upgrades done, you have those labs, you have the monument upgraded, critical toppings are actually going to be doing more damage with the same substat that you were going for as you were with searing, but this time instead of attack percentage as the focus, it's just crit as the focus percent. And your traditional cooldowns, damage resistance, and things like that. So these are the 6 teams I would recommend working with if you're going to be running into the new season and trying to get as far as you can. But I still would love to hear if you guys have specific teams that you've been working with that have helped you climb to Masters or helped you push into a new season very well, as I'd love to hear anything that you're specifically running, as it's always cool to see new teams and new setups. Thank you so much for watching, and have a wonderful day, and good luck in the new arena season.